I'm sure that every one of you know that an amino acid is a compound that has an amine and an acid in it, both linked to a central carbon atom. You probably should recognize most of the 20 amino acids. Even more important, there are certain amino acids that are so central to life that you actually should know every single atom in them and their exact structure. And of the 20 amino acids which are used in protein for human life, one is absolutely essential. You should know a lot about glutamate, even its structure. You should be able to draw it on a blank piece of paper. Glutamate is the workhorse neurotransmitter of the CNS. Every neuron in your brain has receptors for glutamate, even if it has receptors for other neurotransmitters. In fact, there's so much glutamate in your brain that you can have too much of it and have seizures. And that is the reason that one of the oxygens in the glutamate side chain are occasionally replaced with an amine to convert the carboxylic acid side chain to an amide side chain. Glutamine does not bind to the glutamate receptor, therefore it's inert in terms of brain function. Every time glutamate is sent as a neurotransmitter, it gets converted to glutamine to make it safe and then gets sent back to the neuron. Without this interconversion, you would have seizures and possibly death. Also, because there's so much glutamate in the brain, the amine can be converted to a ketone to make alpha-ketoglutarate. So with two amines, we have glutamine, an inert molecule which carries ammonia. With one amine, we have glutamate, heavy-duty neurotransmitter. With no amines, we have alpha-ketoglutarate, a citric acid cycle intermediate. Glutamine, glutamate, glutarate. Each of these 5-carbon compounds can readily exchange nitrogen for oxygen to interconvert and serve their various purposes. Accordingly, I've made a list of amino acids, and the crucial amino acids that I think you should know are glutamate and glutamine. Almost of equal importance, aspartate and asparagine, and it's not difficult to know them because glutamate is so much like aspartate and glutamine is so much like asparagine, such that these 4 amino acids structures are very easy to learn together. In fact, we're going to begin with the alanine building block, the archetypical amino acid, which can kind of be seen as the root of the other amino acids. For example, if you take alanine and add a phenyl group, that's a benzyl group, a 6-carbon aromatic group, you make phenylalanine. So I'm really hoping that you will pause the video now and get a blank piece of paper and draw the structure of alanine. Please go ahead, stop the video, get some paper, draw alanine, and then answer the questions and then restart the video. Okay, but I'm going to move on. And there's many different ways to draw alanine. Here's a few different ways. There could be many orientations. The idea is alanine is the archetypical amino acid, meaning it has an amine group, an acid group, a side chain, and a hydrogen atom. 4 groups linked to a central carbon. Amino acid. I've shown it here where I've labeled everything including the hydrogen linked to the alpha carbon, whereas here I don't show that hydrogen because organic figures don't have to show the hydrogens when they're linked to carbon, although good to show them when they're linked to nitrogen or oxygen. We have 1, 2, 3, we need a 4th bond to carbon, there should be a hydrogen there. How many hydrogen atoms will be linked to this methyl group, the carbon up top at the side chain? Well, since there's only a single bond to it, there needs to be 3 hydrogens, CH3. The 20 amino acids of life are actually alpha amino acids. Can you tell me why they're called alpha? Can you show the alpha carbon? So the alpha carbon is defined as the carbon which is adjacent to a carbonyl. A carbonyl is a carbon-oxygen double bond. So this is the carbonyl carbon. The adjacent one at the center is called the alpha carbon. Do you know what you'd call the carbon on the side chain? Well, we have carbonyl, alpha, beta, then there'd be gamma, delta, etc. You could have drawn it many ways. In textbooks, they usually draw compounds in their neutral forms. So we have H2N and the carboxylic acid they show protonated. I prefer to draw the compounds the way they actually look in your body. For the most part, the amino acid alanine will have a protonated, positively charged amine and a deprotonated, negatively charged acid group when it's floating around in your blood. So that's why I like to show them how to really think about them. As I mentioned, the alpha carbon is in the middle. We have an amine, an acid, and a side chain. I would like you to draw this again, similar to the way I drew it, where the nitrogen is to the left and the carboxylic acid is to the right. And that's because the standard way to draw amino acids is with the amine to the left and the carboxylic acid to the right, because that's the direction which protein translation occurs. You begin with the N terminus and then you start adding amino acids so that the C terminus is the last amino acid added in making a protein. Next to the figure of alanine with the amine on the left, I would like you to draw it again, but in this case I would like you to replace the amine group with a ketone. And can you tell me what that is? Please pause the video, draw those two compounds. Assuming now you've restarted the video, I'm going to show you them. To the left we have alanine with its alpha amine group. And to the right, we have a compound where we've replaced the alpha amine with an alpha ketone. Can you name this compound? Also, can you tell me what it comes from? A very common reaction in the human body is to take amines and replace them with ketones. And this ketone happens to be called pyruvate. So alanine, the archetypical amino acid that you absolutely need to know. And pyruvate, how do you know it? Well, that's the product of glycolysis, right? They each have 3 carbons, and the only difference is you've done a transamine reaction. A transaminase enzyme could catalyze this interconversion. And your body constantly interconverts alanine with pyruvate in order to share metabolism between various cells and the liver. Now I would like you to draw alanine again, and to the end of its side chain, I want you to add a carboxylic acid group. That is, I want it to have one more carbon, and I want that carbon to be linked to 2 oxygens, so that it will have a total of 4 carbons. Please go ahead and draw that. These are very important amino acids I'll be talking about all year long. Do you know what you drew? Hopefully it looked kind of like this, where we had our original amino acid, and there's the methyl group. We've added a carboxylic acid to the group, so now there's 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons, and this is called aspartate. 8 means carboxylic acid. And you'd say, well, all 20 amino acids have an acid group. That's true, but aspartate and glutamate are the only 2 amino acids that have a carboxylic acid side chain, a negatively charged side chain. Now, next to aspartate, will you redraw it, but again, convert the amine group to a ketone? Please take a stab at that. And can you tell me what you drew? So again, a very common interaction, and we're going to look at these reactions all the time and their clinical relevance. You have converted aspartate to oxaloacetate. This is a citric acid cycle intermediate, the first step in the citric acid cycle where acetyl coenzyme A adds an acetyl group to oxaloacetate to make citric acid, hence the citric acid cycle. Now this part, please don't feel like you need to know it, but I was always bothered. Why do they call it oxaloacetate? Well, here's an acetate group, and oxalate is an acid which sometimes you get stones formed by these in the kidney, and it's a common dietary component. And if you simply look at oxalate and you replace one of the oxygens with an acetate group, you have oxaloacetate. For me, the important thing is how similarly the alpha amino acid, aspartate, is to the alpha keto acid, oxaloacetate. Simple amine ketone interconversion. Understanding the structure of aspartate is strengthened by your understanding of oxaloacetate. Their structures are so parallel that understanding either one strengthens your understanding of the other. And there's one other really important closely related parallel structure I want to talk about. Now, instead of taking the alpha amine group of aspartate and converting it to a ketone, I want you to take the carboxylic acid side chain and convert that carboxylic acid to an amide. That is, replace one of the oxygen atoms with a nitrogen. So please go ahead and draw that structure and then tell me what it is. Please pause, it's in your interest. The amino acid asparagine is very similar to aspartate, with the exception that aspartate with 2 oxygen atoms on its side chain is usually deprotonated and negatively charged, whereas asparagine with an amide side chain is neutral, although it is polar. And I really like the similarity between asparagine and aspartate, the similarity in their nomenclature, which helps you understand which is which. And oxaloacetate is a really ugly word, but it's a very important citric acid cycle intermediate, and it's involved in gluconeogenesis. So it is worth learning, and the best way to learn it is in parallel with asparagine and aspartate. Now I would like you to again draw aspartate with a modification where you've taken the 4 carbons in aspartate and inserted a single carbon atom in the side chain so that it is 1 carbon atom, 1 methylene group longer. Please go ahead and do so. It's absolutely in your interest. Can you tell me how many carbons is in your new compound? And can you tell me what it is? Very similar to aspartate is glutamate, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbons. You know, I hate to actually be counting and memorizing the number 5, but this is going to really help you understand neurochemistry, neurotransmission by glutamate, the citric acid cycle, the urea cycle. This is going to help you name a lot of enzymes and reduce the amount of memorization. Now, would you also, at this point, draw it again where you replace the alpha amine group with a ketone? And what have you drawn? Glutamate, the alpha amino acid, can interconvert with alpha ketoglutarate, an alpha keto acid, by simply interconverting the amine and the ketone. And while we're working with very parallel, similar structures, can you also take glutamate and to the left of it draw another amino acid in which the carboxylic acid side chain has been replaced with an amide side chain? Please go ahead and do so. What is the name of the amino acid which you have just drawn? When you remove a nitrogen atom from glutamate, you make alpha keto glutarate. When you add a nitrogen atom to the side chain of glutamate, you make glutamine. Glutamate, glutamine, glutarate. It is so easy to learn these in parallel, where each of the nomenclatures and structures reinforces your learning the other nomenclatures and structures. And these amino acids are at the center of neurotransmission, energy metabolism, nitrogen metabolism. They link the citric acid cycle to the urea cycle because it is so easy to interconvert between alanine and pyruvate, between aspartate and oxaloacetate, and between glutamate and alpha keto glutarate. So this is going to help you a lot during the school year when we get into these. In terms of amino acid structures, I have focused on the most high yield structural insights into the fewest number of amino acids: glutamate, glutamine, aspartate, asparagine, and alanine, and the corresponding alpha keto acids. Nonetheless, I'm hoping that most of you are a little familiar with all 20 amino acids, so now I'll go down to the next most important group of amino acids in part 2. And I hope that you also know those structures after learning these. And you don't need to know those structures in as much detail because they play important roles in many diseases, but not in as many medical conditions as this first group that we've discussed. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy listening to part 2. In the meantime, do not hesitate to contact me. I really like knowing that someone's actually listening to these videos and whether or not they feel they're getting anything from them. But now if you've actually drawn all of these amino acids, it's time to go and look at part 2. Thank you.